Can you explain the challenge that the Advertising Standards Authority faces in keeping tabs on this sector, both in terms of the kind of the job to be done and also just the sheer scale of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the first thing I would say is that advertising, even online advertising, is regulated in a number of ways, not just by the Advertising Standards Authority, but by a number of statutory bodies. For example, financial advertising is regulated by the FCA. And the vast majority of online advertising actually is fine, right? If you scroll through your news feed on your favorite social media, most of the stuff you see will be completely fine. So I don't think we should start from a completely negative perspective that advertising is somehow very problematic in the UK. We actually have a very robust system, but that said, there are problems, and scale is a huge challenge that comes with online advertising. 20, 30 years ago, when the ASA was focused much more on print, radio, TV, things like that, the volume of advertising was simply much smaller. It made proactive regulation much easier. I think we're very clear that you cannot be an effective regulator of online advertising unless you know what is happening in online advertising. That's the core challenge. Unless you know what people are seeing, how can you be proactive? How can you regulate effectively? And when you look at the fact that there are, I don't have an exact figure, but there are probably millions of ads live in the UK today that will be seen by people. And that's clearly not a volume of content that you can tackle in any way without bringing some form of artificial intelligence, or machine learning, automation to bear on the problem. So that is the challenge we have, is how can you regulate effectively without understanding what's happening? And that's where we've put in place our data science capability and the work we've done on our active ad monitoring system to put in place a system that allows us to capture ads at scale, process them, make sense of them, and start to turn them into intelligence that's beginning to more and more drive the decisions that we make, the projects that we run, and how we regulate in general.
Before we go into a bit more detail on that, when you talk about when you say you have to know what people are seeing, that's because not everyone who listens to this podcast works in marketing or indeed in data. But I just wanted to clarify something there. When you say what people are seeing, you mean both the content and the context. So kind of alcohol ads being served on teenage girl fan sites is not going to be, but you're looking for both what it is and also where it's appearing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the majority of the work we do focuses on content, because often the way that an ad can break the code is by saying something. The easiest way to mislead a consumer is to say that your product does something that it doesn't, right? The context isn't important if your ad is misleading. It's misleading. But absolutely, there are lots of cases where we care about context as well. And, you highlighted sort of ad inappropriate content being shown to under 18s is definitely one of those examples. Yeah.
I trust you've enjoyed this brief section of my conversation with my most excellent guest. Check out the full podcast episode by clicking here.